It is 7 o'clock. Welcome, everybody, to At Lafayette Live for Monday, April 14th, 2025. Hope your week's off to a great start. Hope you didn't have a terrible Monday. I think Monday's what you make of it, so I hope you had a good Monday. It's just another day of the week. We have 7 days in a week. They all end in Y, and you can only you've got to make the best of each one. So I know that, a lot of people, the weekend ends and you're going to go back to work on Monday, but I try not to think of it that way. And I hope that you don't either. And I hope that joining us every here on At Lafayette Live every Monday at 7 o'clock brings you a little extra joy on your Mondays. So how's everybody doing tonight? As you know, as you get loaded in, let us know in the um, comments where you're watching from. I'm sorry I was a little distracted there. There's a window just to my left here, and I just saw some sort of aquatic mammal run across my back porch. I don't think it was a beaver. I didn't see a tail. I'm not sure what it was. It's gone out of sight now. I'm sorry, that was a little distracting. When we were doing the show here throughout the winter, it's completely dark out there, and I just keep the shades closed. But now that we're getting deeper and deeper into spring, I can actually see out there and just, have the blinds open for a little bit of my health. So, yeah. I see the chat's rolling away with lots and lots of people all letting us know where you're watching from. It's always great. There's always a bunch of people watching here in the Greater Lafayette area. Lafayette and West Lafayette, Tippecanoe County. I've had a lot of discussions with people about, we don't really have a great language for how we describe ourselves. So, there's the Lafayette area, there's the Greater Lafayette area, because Lafayette is a little exclusive of West Lafayette and other areas around here. There's West Central Indiana, but we're really kind of not, because, I-70 is directly leading west out of Indianapolis, and to me that's West Central. We're kind of northwest of that, but we're definitely not Northwest Indiana. I draw that line at about Lowell, maybe Rensselaer, but definitely no further south than Rensselaer. So how we speak about ourselves is always a little bit of a conundrum for me. It matters a lot more than you might think, because when you're out here talking about things going on in the area, what do you call it? And I know that some people might think, oh, that's easy, but I'd love to hear your suggestions in the chat. What do you call the area besides home? But love to see your suggestions and ideas, and I'll scroll back through that in the transcripts and see if anybody had any great solutions that I haven't, not that I haven't thought of, but I haven't heard of before, definitely. So I've been having some technical troubles with the stream the last couple of weeks. I really think it's a software issue. The computer that I run this stream on got a major OS update at about the same time that, of course, it got a update on the streaming software. For any of you techies in the audience, yeah, I use OBS to run it. I know there's all sorts of like glitzy packages out there, but I really like OBS. It does what I need it to do, and I can make it do exactly what I want. But the operating system on my computer, I think, has really started to roll out a lot more security permissions that are a little more familiar to phone operating systems, and I think that's been causing some mismatches between the computer and the software and all the gear that I use to make this stream happen. So I think I've got at least some of the bugs worked out, but I think at this point I'm waiting for a pretty major software update on OBS. I'm hoping to really, really fix them. It kind of feels like I'm little patched up at the moment, and I think the developers on OBS just really need to go through and put out a new public release for use. So I say all that to, one, pull back the curtain a little bit, give you a little insight into what's going on here behind the scenes, but also to say I'm going to probably have a little bit of a shorter than normal show tonight. I didn't want to pack a whole lot of features in when I wasn't quite sure how the software was going to do, and I didn't want to get, 30 minutes into a show and then discover that things weren't working and, do half of a story, half of a feature, that sort of thing. So it may not be quite the normal full-length show that we're so used to here on at Lafayette Live, but we'll still have a good time. So thank you for being here. People from all over the country, been hard to keep up. It really flies by these days, but Florida and California, I see those all the time. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's warmer there than it is here, although it was quite nice. Went out on a hike today. It was beautiful, if not terribly sunny when we went out, but definitely weather-wise. And of course, there are a lot of Purdue-related people, whether you're alumni, your kids are here, that sort of thing, that live all around the country and tune in. And we really appreciate you when you do that. Absolutely 100%. If you've not watched the show before, our analytics show that a large percentage of the people who watch the show are not subscribers. So with that being said, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Let YouTube know that you're enjoying watching at Lafayette Live and all of our content here on the Lafayette Reel. And then you'll hit the bell icon and you'll be notified of all the things that we put out on the channel. And I've kind of been playing catch up the last few days. There have been days that I've been pumping out 3 videos a day because I've just been a little behind. Everything's been kind of super busy out in the real world, out away from internet lands, as it were. So trying to getting some timely content up before its expiration date. Things are moving pretty quickly here in the Lafayette area. In the doldrums of winter, sometimes it's a little bit of, I'm not quite sure what we're going to talk about this week. And there's always something. And we always find some interesting home tour, some interesting angle on our community. But tell you what, there's been a lot going on here in Lafayette and West Lafayette and Tippecanoe County and the surrounding counties, White County and Carroll County and all around us in the last several months, really. Sometimes it kind of seems nonstop, and I really can't remember a time when things weren't going crazy. But let's go ahead and jump in. I think we're all here now, and certainly some people will come and go throughout the stream tonight. First off, if you're here in the Greater Lafayette area, you have to know Sheila Klinker. She's our state representative here for portions of the Lafayette area. She was first elected to the State House in, get this, 1982. I haven't done the math on that, so that's going to be 25 plus 18, 43 years of service. Not sure if she had a break in there or not. I don't think so, but anyway, she is legendary. She passionately loves our area, and we love Sheila. She definitely has a unique fashion style that you really kind of can't miss. Her flashy, sequiny outfits, her tall shoes. But last week, it was the annual Lafayette Urban Ministry We've Got Talent show. And this is, of course, a fundraiser for Lafayette Urban Ministry that does so much good work helping those who need help here in the Lafayette area. But the connection between these two is songwriter Sharon McKnight led a quartet on an original song, Sheila Can't Stay Home. And it's a folk song that was dedicated to Sheila Klinker's presence here in the Lafayette area. And there's a great, the gospel according to Sheila, if you've ever heard this, wherever 2 or more are gathered in Lafayette, Sheila is there. The gospel according to Sheila. So unfortunately, she apparently wasn't there to hear this song, but certainly she's heard it since. But it's got some great lyrics. It started with talking about COVID. Listen, folks, if I can stay home, anybody can. But some pretty silly verses and lyrics in there, talking about Sheila greeting Neil Armstrong on the moon, that she was in the front row at Woodstock, that she showed up in pictures with Bigfoot and all sorts of other things. Sheila, our very own Sheila, dressed to the nines, every hair in place, serving Indiana with a smile on her face, ready to leave the house on a dime, when seen in two places at the very same time. So colorful her wardrobe, all reds and whites and blues. Tell me how the heck does she manage in those shoes? And in the final chorus, and we're all better off because Sheila can't stay home. We love you, Sheila. We thank you for your service to our community. I thought this was a great thing. And you can go check it out. We'll post the link in the show notes below so that you can go watch a recording of this song, the new ballad of Sheila Clinker, Sheila Can't Stay Home. Love it. Absolutely love it. And if you love Sheila and our community as much as Sheila does, hit the like and subscribe button so that you're notified about all the videos and fun things about Sheila Clinker and our area here on At Lafayette Live. Moving on. I'm just cracking myself up. Yeah. All right. I'll get it together here. Something else just popped across my screen. I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about it or not, but I don't think so. Going back to what I said at the top of the show, it seems like there is a plethora of news here in the Lafayette area these last few months. And some of them are stories that just have a shelf life, have a half-life that is, going to be measured in months, if not years. And the one that is just larger than all of them is SK Hynix and their plans for an AI chip advanced packaging plant in West Lafayette. And they and Purdue Research Foundation going before the Area Plan Commission last month for a rezoning request to move from Site A to Site B, which was denied. And then the City Council of West Lafayette meeting was up next, and it was tabled for a month. And now SK Hynix is finally reaching out to the community to engage with the community. And there was a meeting last Friday at the, Convergence Center, at the Convergence Center over on the west side of the West Lafayette campus of Purdue University, where an SK Hynix senior vice president, I believe executive vice president and head of global business policy, said that they plan to create a community advisory board that was going to help shape a relationship with neighbors that certainly got off to a rocky start. If you were there, first off, I'd love to maybe even have you on the show, but definitely would love to talk to you about it. But if you've ever been in this space, it's a large office space with a large but a large airy open lobby and two conference rooms on either side of the lobby. And apparently they put this meeting in one of the conference rooms instead of out into the lobby. I'm not quite sure what they thought that the attendance was going to be, but I was at the Area Plan Commission meeting and it was packed. We were out in the lobby. I was out in the lobby a good portion of the night in standing room only inside the meeting room. And it was the same thing. And there were a lot of complaints about people in the lobby of the Convergence Center not being able to hear this community engagement meeting. There were some people that got up at this meeting from the community and spoke in favor of this, but certainly the voices against are still very much there. And what's going to happen is still be to determined. The things that we do know is that Mr. Kim led the discussion, including a total of 90 minutes between presentation and Q&A. There are going to be 2 more discussion listening sessions. Times and dates have not been announced. I think they're going to be in the next week to 10 days or so, would be my guess. Locations that have been talked about include Marjoram City Hall and perhaps the West Lafayette Dennis Recreation center. But like I said, those official dates and times have not been announced. So if you can make it to any of those once they are announced, and you care about development in our area, one way or the other, I encourage you to go. I mean, it's community development by definition. It is what community involvement is, community activism, politics, call it what you will. But if you live in a community and want to engage in the future of the community, whether it's in support of this particular project or against this particular project, or just becoming a more informed citizen, I think it's important to go. I've certainly got my opinions on this, and the one thing that I've been wondering about, not since the start. Well, since the start, I've been wondering about the location, but well, maybe we won't call it an uprising, but since the community finally reared up and said, wait a minute, once the rezone request, because the fact of the matter is, Site A is already zoned I-3 industrial for this, where this factory could go there. That's no problem for them right now. They want to move to Site B, which is currently zoned residential. And nobody quite knew if this was an all or nothing gambit. It's got something to do with the site being in better shape and just better overall as far as what they were thinking for where they would go. But from the beginning, it's been talked about suppliers to this factory being within close range of them. So basically being on the alternate plots. So, is it that, the factory can go on A and then you can rezone B to be light industry, something along those lines where, warehouse suppliers are there? Or will Hynix accept that they'll go on site? Well, I just said that. Or, if Hynix's plan, they move to Site B and Site A becomes the suppliers. Is there a third way where Hynix moves to the Airport Discovery Park district? Nobody has really said anything about that. But I do tell you what, I did see out on social media for the first time a articulated message from citizens against the Site A location, because I've kind of been mystified a little bit from the beginning. And if you're watching this and you're one of these people, I'm not judging you. I completely understand, and I don't think you're wrong or right. We'll see, what the future holds. But from the beginning of people starting to say, I don't want to do this, I've been like, Site A was already approved. What are you going to, all that I have heard was people protesting against Site B. But, like I said, there is now some social media presence pushing against the project in its entirety on both Sites A and B, and even suggesting the airport/Discovery Park district down closer to Purdue University. Now, what do things like petitions, change.org, that sort of thing do? They're part of the conversation. Of course, they have no official weight. They don't have a vote on the city council. But the results of such things theoretically should matter. If the elected representatives are following the will of the people, and the will of the people is overwhelmingly saying, we do not want Site B, and by the way, we don't want Site A either. Will that deter the entire project and move it? Will the project move ahead? Because there were several voices at this meeting who spoke up and said, you know what, I'm okay with this. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that I will be attending a lot more meetings about this. I'll be trying to get to both of the listening sessions coming up and the inevitable city council meeting that will follow, where the city council will get to weigh in and give the official stamp of approval or denial, either way to it. I would ask what you think about that. I don't want to provoke controversy in the discussion, but on the other side, I do. So if you're curious, if you have a strong opinion, actually, let me know. Leave a comment below if you're watching this later. Let me know in the chat right now what you're thinking about it. And then let's go ahead and move on. I generally stay away from political stories, from purely political stories, where I dive into them. And I guess I should back up and say the SK Hynix thing, clearly a political story. But I'm just talking about left versus right, red versus blue, keeping score, the horse race of it all. That's not what at Lafayette Live is about. That's not what I'm interested in as a realtor and somebody who's passionate about home here in the Greater Lafayette area. I will talk about political concepts and ideas when they become real, concrete things that can affect us. And the Indiana State Legislature is currently in session, and there are big things coming down the pike that are getting ready to turn into real things. And I got some strong feelings about them, and I know you do too. So let's talk about a couple of them, and they're actually related. The first headline, and I'm just going to read this, is straight from the Indy Star. Mike Braun and House GOP reach agreement on property tax relief for Hoosiers and what's in the bill. And I'm going to stop right there and what's in the bill. This is, from what everybody can tell, a fairly major restructuring of income tax for Indiana residents, for Hoosiers, and it's going to do things like changing our maximum property tax credits, changing our actual property tax bills, capping them out, but it's going to do things like affect the bottom line budgets of our local schools, and that's where there's a lot of passion going on right now, because some property owners are very much on the side of property taxes are too high, they are too much. But on the on the extreme on the end, there's some property owners who are like, I've bought my property, I shouldn't have to pay you anything. And as a product of a public school who is very happy with his education, I say I disagree with you. I like property taxes. I like paying for services that support me and my family and you and your family and our entire society and community. And I'd vociferously have that debate with you with anybody who wanted to speak on that. Now, property taxes should be fair and balanced across the board, but that is a much deeper discussion. I bring that up to say that it's going to have real world consequences that we don't quite know the results of yet. And I'm going to read you a second headline, this time from Fox 59 in Indianapolis. Indiana Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith asks Governor Mike Braun to veto property tax bill. And I think I've got a quote here from Lieutenant Beckwith, where, yes, here it is. This is a public statement that Beckwith made. I've been on the phone all day with Hoosiers and government officials alike talking about the SB 1 property tax bill that the legislature is sending to the governor. Nobody understands this thing, including me. On that basis alone, we can't let this become law. The governor needs to veto this thing, call a special session, and demand the legislature pass something that the average Hoosier can understand without hiring an army of lawyers and accountants. As of the time of writing of this article that I was quoting from, Braun had not responded to Beckwith, and as of right now on Monday evening, there's nothing publicly about where this stands right now, but the Indiana GOP is having an internal public debate about policy and about tax policy, and it's really going to affect us, and it's going to affect the amount of taxes that we pay. And some people might look at it, it's going to reduce our taxes, but it seems, and going back to what the lieutenant governor says, it seems that some of that tax burden is going to get shifted from property taxes into sales taxes and perhaps other taxes as well. But nobody is quite sure. The bill is complicated and complex and hard to read, so they want some transparency there. So will we pay less? Oh, come on. I don't think so. I think that we're just going to move the burden from property taxes to other taxes, and then we'll wind up paying for other services and perhaps have some sort of use fees that are going to make up for it, whether it's, directly through taxes or levies, or through its, people that are actually using services like schools. And I'm not okay with parents having to pay to send their kids to schools. I think schools should be palaces. I think they should be mansions of education, where, here in America, we give the best education to our kids, a world-class education, and we should spare no expense. What's going to fall out from all of this? I don't know. More to come. I like also one of the other reasons I do like to stay away from politics is sometimes it's a little open-ended, and this one is the definition of open-ended. I've read some quotes, I've given you some context as I think about these things, but we do not know what the end is going to be. Maybe we'll know next week. Maybe we'll know in a couple of weeks, but right now we don't know. But call up your local legislators, call your local state senators and state representatives if you're here in the Lafayette area. Call Sheila and let them know what you think, because they work for us. Either way. And then when you're finished with that, hit the like and subscribe button so that you remember to come back next week and hear more about this issue as it continues to develop. One more story. How to phrase this. It kind of starts out with a political bent, and I just said I like to stay away from politics, but the price of eggs has been all the rage in conversations in households and workplaces and schools and in community centers and just everywhere in the country for the last several months. Lafayette is considering allowing chickens inside the city limits. You may not know this, but at the moment, backyard chickens are prohibited inside the Lafayette city limits. And this was actually done a few years ago. 2009 is when they were banned, so about 16 years ago. But there's a whole lot of interest in having backyard chickens again, and some of it is a knee-jerk reaction to egg prices, but also, backyard farming has become more and more popular over the last several years, decade and a half. So the city council is going to have a pair of public meetings to get some feedback from the community to see if the community is truly interested and if they want to do. And city council member Eileen Weiss said, I met with residents, I have met with the city attorney, I have met with the mayor, and we're going forward with this in an orderly manner. Please come and voice your opinions, pro or con, and we will have the discussion in a good, responsible manner and talk about it. And then we will make the decision as to whether we will go forward to propose an ordinance on this. The draft proposal has things along the lines of chicken must be housed in a secure coop and pen, so you're not going to have free range in the middle of town. Makes sense. Coop's got to be at least 18 inches high and provide at least a square foot per chicken. You got to provide at least 2 square feet per chicken in the pen and be predator proof. Structures have to be at least 20 feet from a home and 10 feet from property lines. Again, coops have to be predator proof with a fence that goes no more than 6 inches off the ground. That's an interesting figure. Coops are restricted to backyards. Owners would be required to operate in such a manner to not constitute a public nuisance or disturbance or disturb neighboring residents due to noise, odor, or damage. Owners would also be required to provide access to fresh water and food for chickens and to isolate chickens that are sick or diseased. And finally, violations of the ordinance, if passed, would bring fines of up to $250 per day. So the meetings are, the first meeting is on noon, Thursday, April 17th, so that's in 3 days at Lafayette City Hall. And the next one will be at 5 p.m. for those of you that are working at noon on May 8th, also at City Hall. And May 8th is also a Thursday. So if you are interested in having chickens in your backyard, you should go to one of those meetings and express your opinion to your local city council. Like I said, there's a lot going on here in the Lafayette area. We talked about Hynix, we talked about property taxes, we've talked about chickens, we talked about Sheila Clinker. There is no lack of fun things, interesting things, important things going on here in the Greater Lafayette area. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. If I can help you find home here in the Greater Lafayette area, whether you need to buy or sell, if you're interested in how much your home costs, is how much your home is worth, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube. Fill out a little bit of information for me and let me know that you're interested, and we can work together on home here in the Lafayette area. I love Lafayette. I love living here. There's a reason that I do this. There are so many times that I've thought about, other topics and other things that I could talk about, but at the end of the day, I love where I live. I hope you do too. If you're thinking about moving here, I hope that you would love it as much as I do, but please reach out. And until next week, have a great week, and we will see you next week on At Lafayette Live, Mondays, every Monday at 7 o'clock here on the Lafayette Reel. Have a good week, guys.